Very good morning. So it's nice to meet you again on the online class. Now we are going to the second unit, poem. Unit 2 poem, Confessions of a Born Spectator. Right? Now before we go into the session, let's begin with the Lord's Prayer. Right? So close your eyes, bow your heads. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done as it is on as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our sins. Lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom, the power, the glory forever. Amen. Okay. Now, this is a very interesting poem. I think many of you would be sports lovers, right? You'll be watching many games and all that. Okay. Now, there's an introduction given about this poet. The poet is Ogden Nash, right? So Frederick Ogden Nash, and a short introduction is given about him in at the end of the poem. So it tells there is a his duration was from he lived from August 1902 to May 1971. So he was an American poet, well known for his light verse, of which he wrote over 500 pieces. With his unconventional rhyming scheme, he was declared the country's best known producer of humorous poetry. His light verse even earned him a place on a postage stamp. Okay, right. Uh, see, uh, before we get into this poem, I'll just give you a brief of this poem so that you'll be able to understand what this poem is about. Now, confessions means what? Confessions means, trying to vocally say something. That is called a confession. What is a spectator? A spectator is nothing, is one who watches. A person who watches a game or some program is called a spectator. Now here, the poet, if you just read this poem, it takes an analysis of 4 to 5 sports, right? It takes them into his analysis, and then based on his analysis, is coming to a conclusion. It is better to be a spectator rather than to be a sportsman. And he gives us, he states his own reason. He says, I wish to be like that. If you want to be a player, you be a player, right? But I don't disturb me. I want to be a spectator. And he gives us reasons for being a spectator. And that's what we're going to see. Now let's go to the first stanza. The first stanza, right? Now, the first stanza, if you see, it tells one infant grows up and becomes a jockey. This is a jockey. You can see the picture of the jockey on your screen, right? Jockey is nothing but a horse rider is called a jockey. So what he's trying to tell is when an infant is a small baby, right? A baby who's just come out of a mother's womb, just few months away, right, from its birth. It's called an infant, right? He says an infant. What happens as the infant grows up? There's a desire in the infant to become some sportsman. And here, one infant, he chooses to become a jockey. And that's what you see in the picture. Then he says, another plays basketball or hockey. So one infant, it grows up as an adult and wants to become a jockey. The other, he wants to become, a basketball player. Another wants to become a basketball player. Another wants to become a hockey player, right? So when you have your own choice. So the infant, when they grow up as an adult, they have their own choice. So here it tells one wants to become a jockey when he grows up. The other wants to become a basketball player or hockey player. Then it tells about the prize ring. See, it says this one, the prize ring hates to enter. So here, the prize ring, see, the prize ring normally it refers to a sport that is conducted within a ring. Well, here, in the time of the poet, boxing was a very famous sport. Boxing, ring games like boxing, wrestling, all were there. But the way he talks about the prize ring, it mentions about the boxing. Now, why it's called the prize ring? Because boxers are paid very heavily, right? They are paid very heavily. It's very attractive. When in terms of money, it's a very attractive sport. But some, when infants grow, they try to avoid that sport and they try to choose basketball. They prefer to be a basketball player or hockey player, right? And they hate this prize ring. They hate this boxing because it is their choice, right? They don't want to go for boxing, so they prefer to be a basketball player or hockey player. Though boxing gives them good money. That's the reason it's called a prize ring. That one becomes a tackle or center. Now here, the meaning for tackle which they are given in the textbook is approach. But if you really look into the poem, a tackle is, see here it is a noun, a tackle or a center. Now, this tackle, see if you just look into the next things here. Now you can see the football players, right? Normally when they start a game, you would have watched World Cup football matches and all that. Before they start the game, they will stand in the middle line of the field, right? And and the national anthem will be sung. And after the national anthem, right, what will happen? They will try to play the ball. So this now you can see the players in the middle line of the field, right? Now see the next picture. It will give you a okay. Now see, I put an arrow mark there. Arrow mark there. Now that is the center line. With the yellow line is the center line. Defense. I think you must be knowing of defense offense in kabaddi, right? Or an Indian sport game. You have defense and offense. Now here, one group is in the offense side, the other group is in the defense side. And here in the offense side, I put two arrow marks there. One arrow mark is pointing to tackle position. The other arrow mark is pointing to center position. So an infant, it chooses to become a jockey player, chooses to become a basketball player, chooses to become a hockey player. But sometimes what happens, they hate the prize ring, the boxing ring, and they choose to become. They want to become a. They want to take at least that position in that football, in that field, either a tackle position or a center position. Now that's what it's being referred to. That one becomes a tackle. So if the player which occupies that position is called a tackle. A player which occupies a center is called a center. So they take the name of that position. So that's what we see here. So here itself you see jockey, basketball, hockey, boxing, and football. Almost 5 sports are mentioned in the first stanza itself. Right. So based on these, on this 5 sports, the author is trying to tell about his choice. He says, I am just glad as glad can be that I am not them and they are not me. So what he's trying to tell is, all these infants, right? They have grown up, become adults, and they have chosen their respective sports. But for me, it is their desire. But as for me, I have grown up to choose to be a spectator, right? And I'm glad about my choice. That's what he's trying to tell in the first stanza. Okay. Now let's go to the second stanza. He says, with all my heart, I do admire athletes who sweat for fun or hire. See, normally when, players are normally called, players who normally participate in sports are called athletes. Normally the term athlete is used for those who run. Apart from running, all players who participate in a sport, all players who participate in a sport, they are called athletes. Now here he's trying to say, he holds admiration for the athletes. That is, when he sees the athlete playing in the field, he's very, he has admiration for them, right? Now, normally, even if you just take in India, take in Chennai, you find, here mostly in Chennai or India, Chennai, they are cricket lovers. You can, wherever, sometimes you will find they put some 3 sticks as a stump, and some players they bat, some players they bowl. They do it for fun. They don't do it for money because they have a passion for that game. They want to play the game, and they work so hard. They'll be playing in the hot sun. They even will not feel the heat of the sun, right? They will not mind about the sun. Their whole passion is on that game, and because of that, right? And they're not bothered about money. So he's saying some people they play for whereas you just take the international team, just take our Indian team. I mean, do you mean to say they're playing for fun? Yes, of course, it is there. But ultimately, the money that counts, right? Every player who was playing in the team, national team, they are paid money. So here is a group of people who play it for fun, and you can see another group. They are playing for what? They are playing for money. That is what is called hire. Right. So he says, the athlete says, I admire these players, whether they are playing it for fun or whether they are playing it for money. I admire, right? Because they play the game so intensely. They're not bothered about the sun and all that. They just sweat. That's what happens. Okay. Now you can see the next picture. How they are playing. They're not bothered about the sunlight and all that. They just they're very interested on the game. They play the game interesting. Their intention is just to win the game, play the game. So they're not bothered about sunlight, sweating and all that. They want to play the game and they play the game. Then he says, who take the field in gaudy pomp. See, normally, if you see players, right, they wear very colorful dresses, right? For example, if you take Chennai Kings in cricket, they take yellow for the color, right? Some take blue, some take red, right? And the dresses look very attractive, right? Showy dress. The dresses are very showy. So the poet says,
signal கட்டாய் சுத்தமா signal வரல.
The dress looks so showy, so colorful. That's what he's trying to tell here. Say you can see in this picture how how the players are playing. You see, black dress. Then you have another player there. That side, striped blue, right? So if you just look at them, the dresses are very attractive as they play the game and as they move in the field. It seems to be very catchy. That's what he's trying to do. Who take the field in gaudy pomp. Gaudy pomp means showy dress. And maim each other as they romp. See, they are playing. They're playing in showy dress. But what the author sees is they injure each other. You see, they injure. They play so roughly, and they try to maim means to injure. They injure. They injure each other as they romp. Romp means to play rough. Maim means to injure. So they play so rough that they injure each other. My limp and bashful spirit feeds on other people's heroic deeds. Now, if you really want to understand what is this limp and bashful spirit, right? I'll just give you a small example so that you can understand. See, for example, you want to be a public speaker, but you have shyness, you have a reservedness, right? When you see some other person like your friend, talking on the stage so boldly, you'll have an admiration for the way the person is talking, right? You feel so motivated by the way they talk. Suppose, take for example a game itself. For example, let's take our sport, right? Which we normally are so fascinated in India, cricket. When you find a player playing, bowling so well, batting so well, right? You want to really do that. But you are afraid that you'll get hurt. You are afraid to play the game because you are afraid when you bowl, you get a knee injury. You are afraid that when you hit the ball will hit on your head. You are afraid. But at the same time, when you find the players playing what you are afraid of, you would like to, become like that. You want to be bold like those players. That's what here the poet is trying to tell you. My limp and bashful spirit. Limp is weak. See, because the way the poet is telling this poem, observing from the observation, we know that the poet doesn't want to get himself hurt, right? He's not of that adventurous type, right? He doesn't want to go he doesn't want to go further and get himself hurt, and he's a very reserved person. Bashful. Bashful means shy and reserved, reluctant, we say. So, but he enjoys the game. When he sees the way the players play, he wants to really play like that, right? And sometimes like the audience, right? When a batsman it's 6 or 4, they join, they're so happy, they're excited, right? But they don't play the game. But when an Indian player hits a 6 or a 4, they are excited. So that's what he's trying to tell you. My limp, that is my weak and reserved or shy spirit, feeds on other people's heroic deeds. He calls those deeds heroic because who's a hero? Normally, we appreciate a hero who takes the challenges, right? Normally, we are so many people. You'll have cinema heroes. Why you appreciate them? Because they take the challenge, they take on the villain, they fight, they're ultimate winners, right? And the poet he really wants to be like that, but he's not like that. And because he's not like that, when he sees the players playing, not minding about the injury, not minding about the other consequences, he sees those deeds as heroic, and you know he tries to get entertained by the way the player play on the field. So that's what we see in the second stanza. So let me quickly recollect the two stanzas which we've gone through. So in the first stanza, he's talking about 5 sports. So what are the 5 sports he's talking? He's talking about horse riding, right? Jockey, or normally in horse riding. So he's talking about horse riding. He's talking about basketball. He's talking about hockey. Then he's talking about boxing. He's talking about football. So these are the 5 sports which we see in the first game, in the first stanza. And analyzing these 5 sports, he's saying, though they have chosen to become a sportsman, I have chosen to become a spectator. And he says, I'm glad to be like that. The second stanza, it tells about his admiration for the sports people. When he sees them play, he's so much excited. He admires by the way they play. At the same time, he also sees the injury they get in the field, right? And he wants to be like, like the players, but he has a weak and a reserved spirit, and therefore he only enjoys the game, but he doesn't want to participate. Now we go to the third stanza. Now in the third stanza, see here, he says A runs 90 yards to score. Now, normally, football or hockey, that's a place where the runners, they run for, not to score the goal. Say, for example, here you can see there is a person trying to go to score the goal. So he has to run very far. And in the distance, he has to face so many challenges, right? Or the opponents will come and try to stop him. So many things will go there. So he says, A runs 90 yards to score. Then he tells about the next player. See here? B knocks the champion to the floor. See, normally if you have seen boxing, there'll be one challenge. There'll be a champion. He'll be having the belt, and there'll be a contender. There'll be a challenger who's challenging a champion. Now here is a champion. The contender, the challenger, is knocking the champion to the floor. So you can see this picture here, right? The champion is lying flat on the floor, and B has knocked him out. Then, cracking vertebrae and spine, lashes his steed across the line. So you can see a jockey, right? If you're in the horse race, what will happen is, you can see in the hand, they're having a lash, a whip. A lash is nothing but a whip. They try to beat the horse in order to make the horse run fast. See, you can see a whip in the hand, right? And you see how they are running. Now, jockey training is very risky, actually. Sometimes what happens, they may fall from the horse. Sometimes the horse will throw the jockey players down, and it may result in spinal injuries. That is what the poet is telling here. Cracking vertebrae and spines. Lashes is steed. Steed is nothing but a horse, a strong horse. That's a horse which you can see, which you see on the screen. Lashes is steed across the line. Now, in a horse race, like running race, there's a horse race. So you have to touch the finishing line. So the horse that touches the finishing line will get the reward. So here is a jockey trying to take the horse to cross the finishing line, and he has to overcome many risks on the way, right? Sometimes a person who's coming at the back, not to overtake him, may try to push him down. Sometimes the horse may push him down. So despite all that risk, he rides the horse and crosses the line. That's what we see here. Then he says, you think my ego would please to swap position with one of these? Then the poet is asking, do you think my ego? See, when you see all such heroes, sometimes, when you see some fighting movies, right? You see some fighting movies, you feel so motivated. You feel when you see the hero trying to punch someone, you're so motivated within you. And you feel like, there's a rush of blood inside you and you want to do the same thing. You feel that you can do it. Same thing the author feels when he sees the player playing so heroically, so challengingly. He says, he wants to exchange his position with those players. He says he's asking us the question: do you think my ego, right? When you see all the way the players are playing, do you think my ego will please to swap positions? Swapping means what? Exchange the positions with one of these. Now, going to the next stanza, he's continuing from the third stanza. He's continuing. Well, ego, it might be pleased enough, but zealous athletes play so rough. They do not ever in their dealings consider one another's feelings. I'm glad that when my struggle begins, twixt prudence and ego, prudence wins. What he's trying to tell here is, now there is a struggle, right, between prudence is nothing but wisdom. Prudence, ego, self. His self is saying to be a player. His prudence is saying no, right? So there is a war between wisdom and self. So here in the third stanza, he's trying to make an analysis. I showed you in the previous thing, right? See, in the previous thing, see how they are playing so rough. So you see, the athletes are so zealous means what? So passionate in their game, and because of their passion, they play so rough. They don't even bother about the other opponents, the rival players. They're not bothered that the rival person will suffer an injury, that they are hurting the other person. They don't bother about all that. Their intention is to win the game, right? So that's what we see here. They don't. So the poet is observing that these athletes, they play so rough. Why they play so rough? Because they are so passionate in their game. They want to win, and because of that, they are playing so rough, and they're not even bothered about the rivals' feelings. So when it comes to choosing between wisdom and between ego, so there's a war. So ultimately, what happens? He says prudence wins, right? He says prudence wins over ego. So ultimately, his prudence wins. That is, his wisdom wins, right? Why his wisdom wins? Because why his wisdom wins is because he sees the injured player, right? And his wisdom is saying, if you're going to be a player, you'll have to face those injuries. So he says, his wisdom says no, right? So that's what he's trying to tell in this fourth stanza. Now, let's go to the fifth stanza. Now here he's talking about another sport. He's talking about boxing, right? Now look at this thing, see, swollen eye. Where you'll have swollen eyes? In boxing, right? See how his eye is swollen, right? Already he's hit by the challenger and his eye is swollen. And beyond that, he gets another punch on the same eye. See here? See, again, already the eye is injured. Right. When swollen eye meets gnarled fist, just imagine how it will be. Already the eye is swollen. The opponent, what happens is, hits him again on the eye. Right? When swollen eye, so swollen eye meets gnarled fist. See how is fisting the opponent player. Right? Already his eye is swollen. And beyond that, he has no mercy. He just hitting him again in that eye. So when swollen eye meets gnarled fist, gnarled means what? Gnarled has to do with rough and twisted. Gnarled, rough and twisted, right? See how he is trying to hit the opponent player, right? When snaps the knee and cracks the wrist. Okay, so he says what happens is the injury takes place, right? He falls. I mean, suddenly what happens because of that punch, the knee, the knee gives away. They fall to the ground, and because of that, what happens, right? The doctor is called from the gallery, from the stands, to give treatment to to give treatment to the player, right? So he says, I'm very thankful. Why? Because I need not suffer like that. It's better to have this body, right? Modest body means humble body. Why should I become? Why should I build my body, go to the sports, get hurt? Better have a safe life. That's what he's trying to tell. Okay. Last. Okay, the last stanza, he says, athletes, I'll drink to you or eat with you or anything except compete with you. Buy tickets worth the radium to watch your gamble in the stadium and reassure myself anew that you are not me and I am not you. Now here, what the poet is saying is, poet says that he's ready to celebrate with the, ready to drink, ready to eat with the players. But he says, I will not play the game. I'm ready to play. See, radium is very costly. I'm ready to pay any price for the ticket. But I'm not going to play. I'm not going to play any game, right? I will be me and you be you. That's what he's trying to tell, and he's closing the poem. Now let's go to the questioning session. Let's go to the questioning session.
சார் கேக்குதுல சார்?
Anita, are you there? Anita.
Yes, sir.
Anita, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Anita?
Sir?
Anita, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm there.
Anita?
Hello, sir. Sir, can you hear me? Hello, sir.
Anita, you're not there?
I'm there, sir.
Okay, next person.
Sir, I'm there.
Farzana, are you there?
Sir?
Yes, sir. Farzana, sir, I am.
Farzana.
Yes, sir.
Farzana, are you there?
Yes, sir. Sir, I am there, sir.
Anita, there, sir. Hello, sir.
You're there. Okay, Farzana, the question is for you.
Yes, sir.
How many in the first stanza? In the first
Yes, sir.
stanza, can you name at least 4 sports?
Jockey, basketball, hockey, boxing.
Okay, fine.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Next.
Hello,
Anita,
sir.
can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The question for you is,
Mm.
in the second stanza, what does the poet admire?
What, sir?
In the second stanza, what does the poet admire? Second stanza of the poem.
Second stanza was, sir. Sweet for fun. Hello, sir.
Tell me.
Sweet for fun. And
Sweet
then,
or sweater?
sorry, sir. Sweat for fun. Athletes.
He admires the players who sweat for fun or ire. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay, next person. Next is Nanda Kumar. Are you there? Nanda Kumar. Nanda Kumar.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
In the second stanza, how do the players take the field?
Sir, once again.
In the second stanza of the poem, how do the players take on the field? The second stanza, how does the player take on the field?
It feet my limp and graceful spirit feet.
Hey. How do the players take the field, man? So you are not listening to what I was saying.
Sir.
How they take the field.
Ground form.
In gaudy form. Right.
Yes, sir. Oh. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Kishore Kumar, are you there? Kishore Kumar. Kishore Kumar, are you there? Kishore Kumar. Okay, next. Durai Murugan, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm there.
Durai Murugan. The
Yes,
third
sir.
stanza. The third stanza. Can you name any two sports? The third stanza.
Third stanza.
The third stanza. Can you name any two sports mentioned?
Jockey and wrestling, sir. Wrestling or boxing?
Wrestling, boxing. Okay. Jockey. Who rides? Jockey plays in which sport? Jockey plays in which sport, man?
Horse.
Horse. Okay, fine. Okay, next
Thank
one.
you, sir.
Next one, Yogeshri. Yogeshri, are you there? Yogeshri?
Yes, sir.
Okay, for the question for you is, who, in the third stanza, who lashes his steed across the line? Who lashes his steed across the line? What is a steed? What is a steed? What is a steed? Okay, next one.
Vertebrate and spine,
What is,
sir.
what is a steed? Next, next. Jessica Princey.
Sir.
Okay, the question for you is.
I'm Yogeshri, sir.
Yogeshri,
Strong
you have
horse,
not
sir.
answered the question.
No, sir. No, phone call came, sir.
What is a steed?
Strong horse.
Okay. Jessica Prince,
Yes, sir.
in the fifth stanza, what are the injuries incurred by the player? In the
Sir?
fifth stanza, injuries occurred by the player. Injuries incurred by the player in the fifth stanza.
Swollen eye.
Swollen eye. Okay, fine.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, last. Okay, next person. Kishore. Kishore, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Kishore.
Yes, sir.
In the last stanza, what is the poet willing to do? Okay, so with this, we close the session. So until we meet next time, have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.